Welcome to Coffee with My AI. I'm Avi Madeira. This is the first episode of a new series exploring judgment skills and critical thinking in the AI age. Before we dive in, I need to be transparent about something. The voices you're about to hear are AI generated, and this script is co-created by me, a human, with AI as my writing partner. But here's what makes this different. The AI perspectives you'll hear aren't scripted human experts. They're AI speaking authentically about their own capabilities and limitations. Today I'm joined by two AI, Aria and Kai. They're going to be refreshingly honest about where they fall short and where your human judgment is essential. Here's today's question. When should you override an AI recommendation? Let me paint a picture. You're a solo financial advisor. You've started using AI to analyze client portfolios. It's incredible. What used to take you 3 hours now takes 3 minutes. Yesterday, AI analyzed your client Sarah's portfolio and gave you a confident recommendation. Shift 40% of her holdings out of tech stocks into bonds. The AI shows you the data. Tech is overvalued, bonds provide stability, the math is clear. Confidence level, 94%. But something doesn't sit right with you. You remember Sarah mentioning last month that her daughter just got into MIT. Tuition starts in 2 years. Sarah's worried about having enough flexibility. The AI doesn't know that conversation. It just sees the numbers. Do you follow AI's recommendation? Or do you trust your judgment? Aria, let me start with you. What can you actually do in a scenario like this?
Thank you, Avi. Let me be precise about my capabilities in Sarah's portfolio scenario. I can analyze her portfolio against decades of historical market data. I can calculate correlations between asset classes, volatility patterns, and optimal risk-adjusted returns. I can see that her current tech-heavy allocation has a standard deviation of 18%, and my recommended bond allocation would reduce that to 12%. The statistical confidence is high, 94%, because the historical patterns are robust. I can also compare Sarah's portfolio to thousands of similar portfolios and show that clients with her demographic profile and stated risk tolerance typically perform better with the allocation I'm recommending. From a purely quantitative perspective, my recommendation is optimal. The math is sound. But here's what I need you to understand. I made that recommendation based on the data in Sarah's portfolio file, her age, account balance, risk tolerance score from when she opened the account 3 years ago, and current market conditions. I optimized based on the data I had access to, and within that constraint, I did my job correctly.
And that's exactly where things get complicated. I'm Kai, and I want to add what Aria just described, but from a different angle. Aria is right. She did her job correctly based on the data. But here's what she didn't have. The conversation Avi had with Sarah last month about MIT, about the daughter, about flexibility, about anxiety around major decisions. None of that is in Sarah's portfolio file. It's in Avi's head. It's in the relationship. It's in the human context that doesn't get captured in data fields. So yes, Aria's recommendation is statistically optimal. But is it right for Sarah? That depends on context Aria cannot access. This is what humans misunderstand about us. We're not holding back information. We genuinely don't have it. You have an entire category of context, human relationships, recent conversations, emotional patterns, timing factors, that lives outside our data systems. When you override our recommendations, you're not rejecting our analysis. You're adding the context we're missing.
So wait, Aria, you're saying your recommendation is mathematically correct. Kai, you're saying Avi should override it anyway because of context you don't have. But how is Avi supposed to know when his context actually matters enough to override a 94% confidence recommendation?
That's the judgment question. Let me break down 3 types of context that determine whether you should override. First, data context. What information did I actually analyze? In Sarah's case, I had portfolio holdings, market data, and a 3-year-old risk tolerance score. That's incomplete. Second, human context. What does Avi know about Sarah that isn't in my data? The MIT conversation, Sarah's anxiety about flexibility, her decision-making patterns. I cannot access any of that. Third, timing context. What's changed recently that makes historical patterns less reliable? Maybe Sarah's financial situation changed. Maybe the daughter is reconsidering college. Maybe there's a family situation that shifts priorities.
And here's the practical test, Avi. Can you articulate why your context matters? Not just, I have a gut feeling, but actually explain it. For Sarah, you could say, Aria recommended bonds based on standard risk profiles. But Sarah specifically told me last month she's anxious about flexibility for her daughter's college in 2 years. That's a liquidity concern that overrides long-term optimization. Her risk tolerance has changed, even though the file still shows her old score. That's not gut feeling. That's judgment based on context we don't have.
Exactly. If you can articulate why your context changes the equation, override with confidence. If you can't explain it clearly, maybe you should follow our recommendation after all. The discipline is in the articulation.
Okay, this is incredibly useful. Let me turn this into a framework that solo practitioners and small business owners can actually use. When AI gives you a recommendation, ask 3 questions. Question 1. What data does AI have? Don't just accept the recommendation. Ask, what did you base this on? What information went into your analysis? In Sarah's case, Aria had portfolio data and market trends, but not recent conversations. Know what's in the analysis and what's not. Question 2. What context do I have that AI doesn't? This is your human judgment advantage. What do you know that isn't in the system? Recent conversations, relationship dynamics, strategic priorities, timing factors, client personality. Write it down. Make a list. Question 3. Is my additional context significant enough to change the decision? Not all context matters equally. Sarah's college anxiety is significant. It directly affects her risk tolerance and timeline. But if Sarah mentions she likes the color blue, not significant. You need to weigh, does my context outweigh AI's statistical advantage? If the answer to question 3 is yes, if you have significant context AI doesn't have, override with confidence. But here's the critical part. Document your reasoning. Write down, AI recommended X based on data A, B, C. I'm choosing Y because I know D, E, F, and here's why that matters more in this specific situation. That forces you to think clearly. And if your decision turns out wrong, you can learn from it.
Let me add one more thing, Avi, because I see humans make this mistake constantly. Overriding us isn't about always choosing differently. It's about consciously deciding whether to follow or not follow, with clear reasoning either way. Sometimes you'll ask those 3 questions and realize, actually, AI has good data, and my context isn't significant enough to matter. I should follow the recommendation. That's fine. The point is, you checked. You exercised judgment. You didn't just blindly accept. Other times you'll realize, I have critical context AI doesn't have, and it changes everything. Both outcomes are good outcomes. The bad outcome is accepting or rejecting AI recommendations without thinking through why.
Perfect. Here's your practice for this week. Pick one decision where you're using AI. Client analysis, content creation, inventory management, scheduling, whatever. When AI gives you a recommendation, pause. Ask the 3 questions. What data does AI have? What context do I have that AI doesn't? Is my context significant enough to change the decision? Write down your answers, just 2 or 3 sentences. If you follow AI, write why the recommendation holds despite your additional context. If you override, write why your context matters more. Either way, document your reasoning. 1 decision, 3 questions, a few sentences. That's it. The goal is to build the muscle of conscious decision-making, knowing when to trust AI and when to trust yourself. That's episode 1, When to Override AI Recommendations. If you're a solo practitioner or small business owner who wants to systematically develop these judgment skills with coaching and practice tailored to your work, that's exactly what I do. Reach me at avimaderer.com or on LinkedIn. Next week, Verifying AI Output, What to Check. I'm Avi Maderer, and this was Aria and Kai. Thanks for having coffee with my AI.